What if everything you thought you knew about the legendary battle of David and Goliath was wrong? For centuries, this story has been told as the ultimate underdog tale. A small shepherd boy with a slingshot miraculously defeats a giant warrior. But what if it wasn't a miracle? What if it was a calculated victory, a master class in strategy, psychology, and exploiting hidden weaknesses? Today, we are rediving deep into the Valley of Eila to uncover the true story behind history's most famous one-on-one combat. We, LL, strip away the layers of myth and reveal the strategic genius and psychological warfare that truly won the battle. Prepare to see this iconic clash reanimated with a fresh perspective that challenges everything you've been told. This is the story of how a nimble strategist outsmarted a lumbering giant, not through blind faith, but through brilliant tactics. Our story begins in the Valley of Eila, a strategic piece of land contested by two ancient powers, the Israelites and the Philistines. For 40 days, these two armies stood at a stalemate, camped on opposing hillsides, separated by a valley floor that had become a no-man's land. The tension was palpable. Every morning and every evening, the stalemate was broken by a single, terrifying voice. From the Philistine ranks, a champion would emerge. His name was Goliath of Gath. The ancient texts describe him as a giant, standing over 9 feet tall, a walking fortress of bronze and iron. His armor alone was said to weigh more than 100 pounds. He carried a spear with a shaft like a weaver S-beam and an iron point of immense weight. His challenge echoed across the valley, a taunt aimed directly at the heart of the Israelite army. Choose a man and have him come down to me. It will draw out. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us. It was a classic form of ancient warfare known as single combat, designed to decide the outcome of a battle and avoid the massive bloodshed of a full-scale engagement. But for the Israelites, it was 40 days of pure terror. No soldier dared to face Goliath. Their morale was shattered, their courage gone. The sight of this giant, day after day, had paralyzed their entire army with fear. They saw an unstoppable monster, an invincible warrior. They were trapped in a psychological war they had already lost. Into this scene of despair walks. David is not a soldier. He's the youngest son of Jesse, a shepherd sent by his father to bring supplies to his older brothers on the front lines. He's an outsider, unburdened by the 40 days of fear that had gripped the soldiers. When he arrives, he doesn't see an invincible giant. He hears the taunts against his people and their God, and he sees an opportunity. He sees the situation not with the fearful eyes of a soldier, but with the analytical gaze of a shepherd. While the soldiers saw Goliath's size and armor as his greatest strengths, David saw them for what they truly were, his greatest weaknesses. Let's break down David's strategic analysis. As a shepherd, his entire life was spent protecting his flock from predators like lions and bears. He didn't fight these powerful animals with brute strength. He couldn't. He fought them with precision and speed, using his primary weapon, the sling. Now, we often think of a slingshot as a child's toy, but in the ancient world, the sling was a devastatingly effective long-range weapon. A skilled slinger like David could hurl a stone at over 100 miles per hour with pinpoint accuracy. The projectiles were not pebbles. They were carefully selected, dense stones, essentially the bullets of the ancient world. Ballistic tests have shown that a sling stone of this type could achieve a stopping power equivalent to a modern handgun. Goliath, for all his armor, had a critical vulnerability. The one part of his body that had to be exposed for him to see was his forehead. Now, let's consider Goliath's condition. The description of his immense size and slow, lumbering movements has led some medical historians to theorize that he may have suffered from a benign tumor on the pituitary gland. This condition causes gigantism, but it also has a significant side effect. It can press on the optic nerves, causing double vision or severe near. This might explain why he needed an attendant to walk before him and why he called out, "Come to me," expecting his opponent to engage in close-quarters combat. He was a heavily armored infantryman, powerful up close but slow and potentially visually impaired. His strength was confined to a very specific, short range. He was a battleship, formidable but clumsy. David understood this implicitly. He rejected the traditional weapons offered to him by King Saul. The king's own armor and sword were useless to him. They were the tools of conventional warfare. The very type of fight he knew he couldn't win. Putting on that armor would mean accepting Goliath's terms of engagement. A close-range, strength-based duel. Instead, David chose his own terms. He walked onto the battlefield armed, not as a soldier, but as the artilleryman he was, with his shepherd's staff and his sling. He went down to the stream and chose 5 smooth stones, not because he thought he might miss, but because a professional always carries extra ammunition. The confrontation that followed was a clash of 2 entirely different forms of warfare. Goliath, seeing the young boy with a staff, felt insulted. "Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks?" he bellowed, his pride blinding him to the true threat. He expected a warrior, an equal, to engage him in a duel of honor. He saw a boy. He didn't see the projectile weapon in the boy's hand. David's response was not a boast, but a declaration of his strategy. He wasn't relying on a sword or a spear. He was changing the rules of the fight. This wasn't a duel between a warrior and a shepherd. It was a battle between heavy infantry and a mobile artillery unit. David never intended to get close to Goliath. His advantage was speed, mobility, and range. He was a fast, light, agile skirmisher. Goliath was a slow, heavy, stationary target. As Goliath trudged forward, closing the distance for his melee attack, he was actually walking right into David's optimal kill zone. David didn't stand still. He likely ran toward the giant, not to engage him hand-to-hand, but to get within his own effective range, while also making himself a more difficult target. Then, with the calm confidence of a seasoned expert, he loaded his sling. The motion would have been fluid, practiced thousands of times. He spun the sling, building up incredible velocity, and he released the stone. It flew through the air, a guided missile aimed at the one vulnerable spot he had identified from the start. The stone sank into Goliath's forehead, and the giant fell, face down, on the ground. The battle was over in an instant. David had used his opponent's greatest perceived strengths, his size and arm, against him, turning them into fatal flaws. Goliath's height made his head a larger target. His heavy armor slowed him down, preventing him from closing the distance or dodging the attack. The story of David and Goliath is so much more than a simple tale of the weak versus the strong. It's a timeless lesson in strategy. It teaches us that the assumptions we make about strength and weakness are often wrong. True advantage comes not from conforming to the accepted rules of engagement, but from changing them to suit your own unique strengths. David won because he refused to play Goliath's game. He correctly analyzed the situation, identified a critical vulnerability, and deployed a superior technology and tactic to exploit it. He didn't just get lucky. He was a brilliant strategist who understood that what makes someone powerful isn't always what it seems. He reminds us to look past the intimidating exterior and find the hidden weakness, to turn disadvantages into advantages, and to have the courage to fight our battles on our own terms. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the strategy behind the legend, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges the way you see history. Let us know in the comments what other historical events you'd like us to analyze. We'll see you in the next video.